Welcome to Alpha Complex, where your computer is your best friend. Maybe. Root out traitors, expect betrayal in Paranoia.
And today we'll be teaching you how to play Paranoia, the Uncooperative Board Game, game published by Modiphius Entertainment. And check out the link to the game's page in the video description below.
And hi everyone, it's Stella.
And Taryn from Meeple University.
And hey, if you enjoyed this video after watching, you really help us by like, subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comments. That seriously will help us to bring more videos. Alright, now let's get to the classroom.
Based on the classic role-playing game of the same name, Paranoia sees 2 to 6 players taking on the roles of troubleshooters in the dystopian Alpha Complex. Round by round, players will spend action cards to explore the complex, collect equipment, manage the threat of Guardbots, and contribute to the completion of tasks set by the friendly computer. Players can gain promotions through best completion of tasks, while advancing their own agendas with the help of secret societies. And whoever 2 markers first meet on this track will win the game. But in this dystopian world, you're always being watched. Your clearance level defines the actions it's legal to take, and while you can dabble outside your clearance level if you wish, just be careful that the friendly computer doesn't find out. To set up, give each player a Troubleshooter, 5 backup clones, 6 matching loyalty chips, and your clearance and secret agenda tokens placed on red and ultraviolet respectively. Take a full set of the double-sided clearance level cards and set the top of that stack to red, matching your position on this board. Keep this in your play area for easy visibility, and you should always keep this up to date with your clearance level on the main board. You'll have a Troubleshooter standee, and I'll be showing these flat for the purposes of this video. Set up the Alpha Complex. Find the cards with the starting icon, and from them set aside the briefing room. To the rest, add a number of other Alpha Complex cards depending on your player count, and shuffle them. Return unchosen cards to the box, and lay the cards out in this pattern, with the briefing room in the middle, containing all players' standees, 4 cards around it, and the rest of the deck off to the side for now. Shuffle the other decks: action, secret, task, computer, and equipment. Each player takes 3 action cards and 1 secret. Then for the tasks, deal face up a number near the status board, which depends on your player count. Make supplies of the other tokens, hatches, guardbots, and broken tokens, which should be shuffled number side down. Choose a first player, and you're now ready to play. Paranoia is played in rounds, and each round is played in 3 phases: the Troubleshooter phase, Guardbot phase, and Computer phase. First is the Troubleshooter phase, and this is played in turns. Each player will take 1 turn, starting from the first player and going clockwise around the table. Second is the Guardbot phase, during which Guardbots may move or attack loitering players. And third is the Computer phase, where a computer card is drawn and resolved, and you'll then reset for the next round. Troubleshooter turns are primarily resolved using action cards. To begin each of your turns, you'll draw 2 action cards into hand, and then most of the actions you'll take will be based on the cards you play. However, your action cards also represent your health. Any time in the game that you're instructed to take damage, you must discard 1 action card from your hand. And if ever you take damage but you have no action cards in your hand, your Troubleshooter dies. Your death is not the end of your game. Cloning technology has been perfected, and so your death will cause you to end or miss a turn, and expend 1 of your 5 backup clone tokens. I'll go through all of the particulars of how to manage death later in the video. The game's status board has 2 markers for each player, one representing their current clearance level in the complex, which can increase from red through to ultraviolet, and one representing the player's personal secret agenda, which begins in ultraviolet and can move left along the board. You can increase your clearance level by best completing the shared tasks, as well as through some decisions made by the all-seeing friendly computer. You can advance your secret agenda marker by completing secret society cards in your hand. And the winner will be the first player whose 2 markers meet, or whose markers are closest to meeting, in the round when any one Troubleshooter dies without a backup clone to replace them. Finally, the world of Paranoia is dystopian and deeply hierarchical, as well as closely monitored by the friendly computer. Under the thematic laws of the land, certain actions, equipment, and rooms of the complex are intended for use only by players who meet a certain clearance level. Now, that doesn't mean that you as a player can't or shouldn't take actions outside your clearance level. It just means that there may be consequences from the computer for doing so. But it's not just the computer keeping an eye on your actions. This is a competitive game, and if you witness somebody taking an action outside their clearance, it is both your thematic duty and to your gameplay advantage to point out this treason to the computer. Within Paranoia, this is represented as a test of loyalty to the computer, and players will be stealing or stealing back each other's loyalty chips as they witness and snitch on each other for these illegal acts. Through the video, I'm first going to take you through how all of the basic actions and gameplay work without giving consideration to the loyalty and treason aspects of the game. And so, for the first half of the video, focus on the actions I'm explaining, ignoring the colours on the cards. I'll then come back at the end and go into full details about how these clearance levels, loyalties and treasons play out. On your Troubleshooter turn, you'll resolve these 5 steps in order. First, draw 2 new action cards into your hand. There is no limit to how many cards you can hold, although there are some specific and random moments in the game where you may need to discard down to a certain number. You also draw 1 new secret card face down if you don't have one. Secret cards are not considered part of your hand. If you're holding any equipment cards, and we'll see how to get that a little bit later, you may also discard any number of equipment cards to draw 1 new action card per equipment. Now it's time to take actions. Each action is going to require you to spend 1 action card from your hand, and you may play up to 4 action cards. Keep a card in front of yourself once you've played it, as you won't discard it until the final step of your turn. All action cards have one of 4 different action icons in the top left corner, and some action cards also have an action in text printed on the card. Others do not. Ignore this number in the top right corner. This doesn't affect your actions and has another use, which we'll see later. When you play an action card, you will either play it to resolve its text effect, or play it to resolve the action associated with its icon. The first actions I'll talk about are Scurry and Explore, as these are the ways of moving around the map and revealing new rooms. Exploring requires this icon. Scurrying can use any one of the 4 action icons. When you scurry, you may move up to 2 revealed areas through valid connections and resolve the arrive effects of cards you walk through or finish in. As part of a scurry action, you can also choose to enter an unrevealed room through a valid connection and resolve the normal steps of revealing that area. In doing this, you must then enter the area and suffer any consequences of being there. Meanwhile, taking an explore action lets you reveal a single area adjacent to you, again resolving the normal setup steps of doing this, and then you may optionally choose whether you want to go in there or not. Valid paths for movement are door, ladder, and hatch. Each card automatically has 1 door on its left and right hand side. This is not depicted by the picture, it's just automatically there, and it means you can walk through a door from one room to an adjacent one on the same level. A ladder connects to the hatch above it and allows you to move up and down between the levels. So from here, I could move up this ladder and through this hatch to the middle management spa, or likewise from the spa through the hatch to the briefing room. Gravity is on your side, so you can move through a hatch which doesn't have a ladder. However, you will suffer 1 damage for doing this. But the reverse is not true. You cannot climb up through a hatch if there is no ladder to reach it. When a new area card is revealed, new cards get placed around it at all of its valid exits. That's why this is the starting map setup. You've got the briefing room, the areas through each door, and the area from the ladder and hatch. If a player were now to explore this area, new face-down cards would be placed from the deck here for the door, here for the ladder, and here for the hatch. Cards may also show a number of Guardbot tokens in the lower left corner, and you must place that many Guardbots on the card when it is revealed. Ladders will always connect to hatches. If I were to reveal this card right now, I'd see no hatch on the floor. When this happens, take a hatch token and place it on the card. That now behaves like a pre-printed hatch for all purposes. In this case, I'd also place new cards here and here for the exits, as well as 2 Guardbots. There is no equivalent token for the ladders, so if you have a hatch without a ladder, again, this now means the only way you can get down there is by dropping and taking a damage. The supply of alpha complex cards is limited, and after not too long in the game, you will run out of cards. If, when the deck runs out, you're attempting to place more than there are in the deck, it's the player who revealed the card who gets to choose where the last cards go. From this point forward, there is one more movement option, and that is that it now costs 1 movement to move from an area across any amount of empty space within the same level to another area. You can consider this to be a gap in the complex with a shuttle running between them. Throughout the game, any 2 areas are considered adjacent if they are connected by doors or by a ladder-hatch combination. Areas connected by shuttle or connected by a hatch-fall combination are not considered adjacent. And so that's all the information you need to know to understand the scurry and explore actions, as well as how to explore the complex and place out new cards at the exits. Just remember, scurry lets you move 2 areas, including going into a new area where your movement ends, while explore lets you reveal an adjacent card and then choose whether or not you're going to move in. In all cases, resolve the arrive effect on any card you enter or pass through. The next action is activate. You can do activate with any card, and it lets you activate an elevator, dispenser, or terminal in your current area. I'm going to skip over the terminals for now because they relate to the loyalty and treason part of the game, and for now focus on the other 2. Activating an elevator is a means of rapid transit. You can immediately move your Troubleshooter to any other area with an elevator. The dispenser is a way to gain equipment. When you activate, draw 2 equipment cards from the deck, look at them, choose one you wish to keep and one to discard. Equip the one you keep into one of your 3 equipment slots, and it will give you some other action or effect. Some of these are passive effects which will either always apply or require you to discard the equipment. Some are actions and they require you to spend an action card to take them. And some are weapons, and these apply during the next action we'll talk about, which is zap. Zapping, which requires this action, is how you attack other players or Guardbots. Choose a weapon, either one you're holding or your fists if you aren't holding any, and choose a target, which is a single other player or Guardbot in your area, or an adjacent area if your chosen weapon is ranged. Next, do a competence check. You'll find competence checks both in the zap action and several other actions, but it always means the same thing: to take and discard the top card from the action deck and apply the number in the top right corner of that card to your action. This is the game's random number generation and gives you a number between negative and positive 3. In the case of an attack, add the number on the competence check to the damage of the weapon. If you target another player, then that player suffers damage equal to the result. So for the laser pistol with this competence check, the target would suffer 4 damage. On a result of 0 or below 0, the target suffers no damage. If your target was a Guardbot, your aim is to do at least 2 damage. If you successfully do 2 damage, you destroy the Guardbot. If you fail, then the Guardbot suffers no damage and retaliates, meaning that you yourself suffer 2 damage. Another aggressive action you can take against another player is bully, using this action. To bully, you steal a random action card from a player in your area, as long as that player's clearance level is strictly lower than your own. Clearance levels are a hierarchy in this dystopia, and superior players do have that inherent right to bully their inferiors. Although bullying removes an opponent's health by taking away their action cards, you cannot use this action to kill another player. It is only by suffering damage with no cards in hand that the player dies. The next action is Tinker, using this icon, but to understand Tinker, we first need to understand how features in the map get broken. There are some cards and effects which result in things breaking spontaneously, but for the most part you'll break things by deliberate sabotage. Immediately after taking an action to use any feature of the map, you can break that feature. So, after taking an action at this dispenser, I could break the dispenser. After using this elevator to move somewhere else on the map, I could break the elevator. I could climb up this ladder and break this ladder, and I could even use a standard left to right door and break the door. As you can see from my placements, for a movement feature, it's always broken on the card you left, not the card you entered. And a broken feature cannot be used by any player. That means no one could move from this room into this room through the door, although movement against the broken component is allowed. In total, 6 different types of feature can be broken: doors, ladders, hatches, dispensers, elevators, and terminals. Tinkering allows you to repair a broken feature in your area. Spend the Tinker icon and then flip over the token on the piece you're repairing. The computer rewards you for repairing the complex by letting you draw a number of action cards equal to the number on the token, and this will be between 1 and 3. Then return the token to the supply. You are not allowed to repair a broken token which you placed on this same turn. The next action is to contribute to one of the common tasks, and this is your main way of getting promoted. To take this action, you must be in the location printed on the task. This could be a specific location, which is always in the game, an area from a certain zone, that will refer to the A or Z in the top left corner of some cards, or a card meeting some other description. Then spend an action card showing the icon printed on the task, and move one of your loyalty chips to the task. After completing your actions, you'll check for any completed tasks, meaning you'll look to see whether any tasks have as many or more total loyalty chips on them as the target of the task. If it does, then the task is complete, and all players who have the most or equal most loyalty chips on there are promoted 1 level. Players now retrieve their loyalty chips and the card is discarded, leaving an empty space until the end of the round. The joint contributions to tasks gives players the opportunity to collaborate and agree on which tasks they'll focus on, possibly working together to share the spoils from a given task. Just be aware of an opponent sweeping in to overcomplete a task, possibly boxing you out of the rewards. The other thing you can do is complete one of your secret cards. This doesn't cost any action cards, so it doesn't count towards your 4-card limit on your turn. There are 2 types of secret: mutations and secret society. When you play a mutation, this is a once-off immediate effect which might help you. So, reveal the card when you need it, resolve its effect, and discard. A secret society card represents a personal objective. When you meet the objective on this card, reveal it, move your secret agenda marker 1 step to the left, bringing you closer to victory, and again, discard the card. You draw a new secret card at the start of any turn when you don't have one. And so that is your turn. After drawing cards and discarding equipment cards to draw more, you take actions by playing at most 4 action cards, then check for completed tasks, and finally discard all the action cards you played. Play then passes to the next player clockwise. Once each player has taken a turn, the Troubleshooter phase is over and you'll move to the Guardbot phase. The Guardbots act on behalf of the computer to make sure that Troubleshooters aren't staying in areas for which they don't have clearance. Any Troubleshooter whose current clearance level is below their current area's clearance level is said to be loitering. Here, these 2 Troubleshooters have the right clearance to be where they are, so they are not loitering, while these 2 Troubleshooters with lower clearance are loitering. The first step of the Guardbot phase is that each Guardbot sharing an area with a loitering Troubleshooter attacks that Troubleshooter. That player suffers damage equal to the difference between the area's clearance level and their clearance level from each Guardbot. So here, the Troubleshooter has the right clearance, no damage, and here there's no Guardbot present. Here we have a yellow clearance in a green room with 1 Guardbot, so the player would suffer 1 damage. Then all Guardbots who did not attack will potentially move. If it moves, the Guardbot moves 1 area, staying on its current level towards the nearest loitering player. This can include across a shuttle if the shuttles are active. If there is no loitering player, or there are equidistant loitering players, then the Guardbot also does not move. So on these levels, no one is loitering, as both players have adequate clearance. On this level, both players are loitering, so this Guardbot moves 1 space to here, while this one has equidistant loiterers, so does not move. Guardbots who move do not attack right away, they'll attack next round. Finally, resolve the computer phase. If the computer card that was drawn in the previous round had this icon, then you'll resolve the reporting to the computer steps. And this is heavily related to the loyalty and treason aspects of the game, so we'll come back to that shortly. Next, draw and resolve a new computer card, resolving all of the text and seeing whether you're going to report to the computer next round or not. Next, you'll replenish tasks, which means you resolve the consequence box on any incomplete task while leaving that task and any of its loyalty chips in place, and then refill any empty spaces in the task market. Then any Troubleshooter who died last round comes back to life with a backup clone, and then finally the first player marker is given to the player with the lowest clearance, or in the case of a tie, whichever player is nearest left clockwise from the current first player. Now proceed to the next Troubleshooter phase. In Paranoia, demonstrating your loyalty to the friendly computer is important for your survival. Through the game, you'll aim to try to hang on to your loyalty chips, because losing them can be dangerous to your health. The cleanest way to maintain your loyalty is to not take any actions which are above your level. However, you'll very quickly find that when you're at the lower clearance levels, there's not that many good actions open to you. So, oftentimes it will pay to take actions from above your clearance level, but just make sure you don't get seen. There are 7 different types of actions you can take which could cost you loyalty, and these actions are called treason. And these actions are playing any action card from your hand which is above your clearance level, using the effect of any equipment card which is above your clearance level, and do note, you can carry equipment above your clearance level. After all, you could be carrying it for a superior, you just can't use its effect. Attacking any Guardbot, attacking a superior, and to be clear, the computer is fine if you attack someone who's on the same level or inferior to you. It's only attacking a superior, which counts as treason. Breaking any feature of the map. Remember before, I told you you could break or vandalize any feature after using it. However, anytime you do this, it is considered treason. Revealing a secret card. So in other words, if you complete a secret society objective, or if you spend and use a mutation, you're allowed to do this, but it will always count as treason as well. And finally, displaying an incorrect ID. In other words, if you've forgotten to keep your ID stack up to date with your clearance level on the main board, this counts as treason. If you commit an act of treason, then any player in the same area or an adjacent area may report that treason by shouting the word treason at the table.
Treason!
If you're within line of sight of multiple players, then each one of those players may call you for treason as long as they do so by the end of your turn. That means the more visible your treason, the more of a dangerous effect it has on your loyalty. The accuser has until the end of the treasonous player's turn to make an accusation, and the accuser must survive the treasonous act to make the accusation. In other words, attacking and killing a superior is still technically considered treason, but since dead men tell no tales, the victim cannot make an accusation. After a correct accusation of treason, the accuser steals any one loyalty chip from the inventory of the accused, stealing it to their own inventory. This could be any chip. You could steal one depicting the accused, steal back one of your own chips which the opponent is holding, or even steal a third player's chip if the player you're stealing from had it in their inventory. Once players' loyalty chips are exchanging hands, a few other rules come into play. Firstly, when you contribute to a task card, the loyalty chip you place on it is one depicting your Troubleshooter. And this can be one that you're holding, or it can be one from another player's inventory that they've previously stolen. Secondly, once you've collected other players' loyalty tokens, you can spend any card to activate a terminal, uploading that knowledge of their treason to the computer. Your opponents suffer 1 damage for each of their loyalty chips that you're holding, and then you return the tokens to them. Thirdly, some similar things happen if you're reporting to the computer in the computer phase. There's a brief reset where players must discard down to 6 action cards and discard any equipment they're carrying above their clearance level. The computer then rewards the biggest snitch. The player or players holding the most total loyalty chips, their own and other players, are promoted. Finally, just like at a terminal, all stolen loyalty chips are returned to their original owners, and the player suffers 1 damage for each such token they get back. Finally, if at any point all 6 of your loyalty chips are held by other players, then you are immediately considered a traitor. A traitor is considered the lowest clearance level, below even red, which means anyone can bully you, attack you without it being considered treason, and Guardbots always consider you loitering. You remain a traitor until you either die or are promoted. And do note, you retain your position on the status board even when you're a traitor. Right now, if this yellow clearance player were a traitor, then when that player dies, the player's backup clone comes back as yellow, and if that player were promoted, instead of going up to green, the player would instead revert back to yellow. Do be clear on the difference between treason and cheating. Treason is any one of these 7 acts which are within the rules of the game, but thematically outside the laws of the universe. You are allowed to take these actions at the risk of losing loyalty tokens. However, breaking the actual rules of the game, suppose I started my turn by drawing 3 action cards instead of 2, that's not in-universe treason, that's at the table cheating. If an opponent catches you doing something which is not within the rules of the game, that should be managed by reversing the erroneous action, not by simply calling it a new type of treason. Finally, incorrectly accusing someone else of treason is also grounds to steal an opponent's loyalty chip. If ever you suffer damage that you do not have enough action cards to discard, then your character dies. Immediately discard a backup clone token and lay down your character in its current location. Return any other player's loyalty chips to their owners without them suffering damage, and retrieve all 6 of your own loyalty chips from other players or from task cards. You lose any secret cards you are holding, but you retain your clearance level and, for now, you retain equipment. You draw 3 new action cards, but if it's currently your turn ends, and if you haven't yet had your turn this round, then you're going to miss your turn. While dead, you can't be attacked by guardbots or opponents, but your body can be looted, with opponents able to discard any number of action cards to steal that many equipment cards if you share an area. You'll stand your new clone back up at the end of the next computer phase, retaining any unlooted equipment. The game can end in one of 2 ways. If a player's 2 markers ever meet on the status board, the game ends immediately and that player wins. The other way is if a player ever dies and has no backup clones remaining, this is called a catastrophic clone loss. Finish the current round through to the end of the computer phase, and it's the still living player whose 2 markers are closest who wins the game. In this case, this was the player whose clone loss triggered the end, so that player cannot win, and this player would be the winner. If tied, highest clearance level breaks the tie, so here this player would outrank this one. And if still tied, victory is shared.
Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, maybe you'd like to watch this next one. Have a great day, bye!
Treason!